In the figure above, triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF, so similar, that's important. If cosine of angle C is equal to 0.6, so if cosine of C equals 0.6, what is the value of sine of F? This is what we are looking for. So first things first, because these are similar triangles, we know that the angles are going to be exactly the same. So that's the right angle. That means this angle equals this angle, and this angle equals this angle right here. B equals E, and C equals F. The measure of angle C equals the measure of angle F. And another thing to keep in mind is that the figure is not drawn to scale, so we have to do only mathematical deduction here. We can't rely on any kind of scaling factors or anything like that here. So let's start going through the problem. If cosine of C equals 0.6, so cosine of C right here, right? Cosine of C is going to be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So our SOHCAHTOA, we're looking at cosine, so that's going to be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine of C right here is going to be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse right over here, right? And that's going to be equal to AC over BC, right? And it tells us that cosine of C is equal to 0.6, 0.6. So we know that the ratio of AC divided by BC is going to be equal to 0.6. So I'm just going to choose a couple of numbers here, right? So in this case, I'll just choose this is going to be 6 and this is going to be 10, just as a random, I chose two numbers whose ratio is 6 to 10. You could have chosen 3 and 5 as well. You could have chosen 60 and 100. As long as the ratio is correct, 0.6, you'll be fine. Because in this case, it's going to be 6 divided by 10, which equals 0.6. And because this is a right triangle, and this is 6, this is 10, the Pythagorean theorem tells us that this side is going to be equal to 8 right over here, right? And that's because this is a Pythagorean triplet. So 6, 8, 10 is a Pythagorean triplet, just like 3, 4, 5 is. Okay, so now we know that the ratio of these sides is 6, 8, and 10. Now we can go about figuring out the sine of f. In this case, it's asking us the sine of f right over here. Sine of f is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be this side over here divided by this side over here, this hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of f is going to be equal to dE over EF, right? And in this case, we don't actually know what the sides are, but what we know is that because these two triangles are similar, we know that the ratio of these sides must be the same in both triangles. So in this case, because we know that the ratio of this side is proportional to the ratio of this side right over here, and I shouldn't draw this like this. This should not, these are not congruent. But we know that the ratio of this side divided by this side equals the ratio of this side divided by this side right over here. So we know that ED, or let's write it as DE, DE over EF equals AB over BC, right? So in this case, DE over EF equals AB over BC. So I can say this is the same as AB over BC. And that tells me that the sine of F is equal to the sine of C. So if I can determine the sine of C, I can determine the sine of F. And the sine of C is going to be equal to AB over BC, which is equal to 8 over 10, which is also equal to 0.8. So the correct answer in this case is 0.8 or 8/10. These are the two that you could plug into your answer box and grid in.